What's up, guys? Welcome to this episode of the Friday Sessions with your team, James, Mark, and Eric, and myself, joining you this week from beautiful Bali. Guys, this is a really different pod for us. We started off talking a little bit about Bitcoin, about not Bitcoin itself, but by a mistake I made this week and what I did to fix it, and how I learned that I'd actually become quite lazy in a very, very important aspect of life and making money. We then moved on to talk about spirituality of all things. When was the last time we talked about spirituality? Never. But we shared some very personal reflections of how the way the world is at the moment is impacting us personally. And I think you'll find it quite interesting, because I wouldn't accuse any of us of being religious. But that was kind of an interesting discussion that I'd actually never had with the boys before. And I was really interested to hear particularly some things that Eric does that I didn't know about, that I've learned in real time, as you will now. It was just a really interesting chat, and how that fits into the life as an entrepreneur or as a father. We also talked about retirement in Australia. We talked about some new data out and how the goalposts are being moved, and what we believe you should be doing right now, and making some really big and hard decisions. And we'll talk about real life examples of people that have made those decisions and are benefiting from them today. Finally, we shared a very interesting tool that we used this week in our business that got us direct access to somebody who is a legend in our industry, has built a massive podcast, and how we got to sit down one-on-one with the main person driving strategy at that podcast, who shared everything about how they grew to be one of the biggest channels on the internet. So how do you do that? How much do you pay? How did you reach out? How did you contact? All of that we spill the beans on in this episode of Unemployable. So with that said, let's get into it. Remember, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. That's the only reason we keep doing this, is grow the audience, get better guests on for you, and so on. So please support us with just a free subscribe. Bye for now. Welcome to the pod, boys. It is good to see you all back and live with us. I'm coming to you today from Bali, of all places. Second Australia, really, isn't it? But nice to see you guys here. How are you all?
Good. It's amazing though how many people from all over the world that I see in Bali that I'm following on Instagram. People from Portugal, people from the US. Like there's so many. Like it must be the spot where all the influencers go at them.
Mate, I was just having breakfast this morning at a place called the Brunch Club. They got like an equestrian, and there's horses running around in front of you while you're having it. And like I looked around, and it's next level. They got like all the chicks in the like active wear, and they've got their tripods, and they're taking photos, they're photographing their food. And it was literally like being on a photo set. It was kind of wild. But yeah, honestly, it's actually really nice to be here. It's Bali's such a good vibe, man. Like I can see why people are wanting to live here, and it's fascinating, because I've been looking at property, and it's so interesting seeing what property prices are when you can't get a mortgage. And I know we're going to talk about this today. And but you know, like I looked at a couple of villas here, and honestly, you're talking like I reckon 50 to 70% cheaper than what the same thing would be in Australia. And you've got so much access to good stuff here. Amazing food, super social place, beach clubs everywhere. I just came from checking out the local gym here in Canggu, and it's like I felt like fat and out of shape in there. Like dudes are just walking around ripped, chicks are super hot, the pools are packed. It's just such a cool vibe. How are you anyway?
Sounds like a shit place, eh?
Yeah.
How are you anyway? How are you anyway? Yeah. How are you fuckers in Australia going? Hold on, let me pull myself out of this hole. Hold on a sec. All right, I'm back.
Let's talk to you, miserable
Eric's just been in 2 podcasts, hasn't seen daylight since this morning.
I've been in the dungeon. I've been in the dungeon, back to back. So I'm literally out in the front room now, just to get a bit of light, some vitamin D into my iris.
You've been stuck in the dark, telling people how to live the dream.
The army, huh? I should just say, just check into my mate's Adam Hudson's Instagram to be living the dream, eh?
Oh man, I did it for years. I still remember being down at Bellyheads and walking along the beachfront, telling people how they can live the dream if they buy Amazon courses and get into Amazon. In the background is actually the people living the dream, like out there busting it down the waves. And the irony was never lost on me. But guys, let's kick it off. I want to kick it off with an interesting. We'll start with, as always, guys. We cover Bitcoin, inflation, AI, immigration, some business stuff, and so on. But I want to kick off today with just a quick personal story. It's in the Bitcoin space, and then we're going to talk to another story that came out in the Bitcoin space, and then we're going to move on. And I think we'll probably jump over to something interesting with business this week, because I think it'd be nice to not get into politics and what's happening in our lovely country as we speak. We'll try and add some other value, and we'll talk on the business side. But I wanted to share just an interesting experience. So there's a video that's sort of gone viral in the Bitcoin space a couple of weeks ago, and it's a guy in a gold shiny mask, and he goes by the moniker Sir Toshi. And his clip went viral because he went on this British podcast and he basically said, Bitcoin's worthless, and it's worthless because in 2017 there was this secret changing of the guard where it got co-opted by the big investment central bankers. The central bankers co-opted it basically and forked it and it's this whole conspiracy theory basically about how Bitcoin is worthless because of this highly technical thing that occurred. And so the story is, I watched the clip, and it's a little bit above my pay grade because it's super, super technical stuff. So I got Tony from the Bitcoin Way while we were in, where were we? Kuala Lumpur, and we released that podcast, the full podcast with Tony. I got Tony in, I played the video on the pod, and I said, Tony, you're a cybersecurity expert. You're super smart with this stuff. What is this? Is it right? Is it wrong? And Tony sort of didn't really address the question because he got caught off on a tangent. And then it got me thinking, right? And I think this is a really important thing for everybody. What I did was what so many people do. I saw this sort of clickbaity kind of reel with this guy in a golden mask who didn't want to reveal his face, that was apparently revealing some, major conspiracy theory, and he wasn't revealing his face because he was afraid for his safety. And this thing went super viral. And the first thing I did is I went and asked somebody else, and instead of actually doing what I should have done, which I did afterwards, because when the video dropped with Tony, a lot of our audience called us out and said, Adam, you raised this question, Tony didn't address it, that's bullshit. And I was like, you know what, that is right. It's not because Tony didn't know the answer or whatever. I just let it go. But I kind of became self-critical, and I thought what I should have done is sat down, stopped being lazy, and gone piece by piece through this guy's claims and actually tried to cross-reference it and verify it and do what we would otherwise call the work. Now, interestingly, I did watch this guy's entire video slowly through the lens of, I'm not going to go and just ask somebody else to give me the answer like a baby. I'm going to actually go through it, and I'm going to get ChatGPT out, and I'm going to dissect every single claim. And man, did I learn a lot by actually doing that. And I'm going to do a video shortly and release it here on why this guy, in my opinion, is borderline nuts and incorrect after having done the work personally. And so I guess this is a long story just to encourage everybody out there and to remind everybody out there, don't be lazy in things that are important, right? And if you're watching these podcasts and we talk about Bitcoin all the time, you're talking about the best performing asset in the last 15 years by a country mile. So if you're here to get rich and you're here to make money, then I would say learning Bitcoin is probably important given it's the best performer, right? And when you see stuff like this, don't be like a fucking NPC that just goes, give me a short, quick answer, find somebody quick to help me, and make me stop actually having to think and do the work myself. And it was a really good wake-up call for me to, just do that now and then and actually do it. So anyway, it's going to be something I put out in the future. But have you guys caught yourselves doing similar shit? Mark?
I want you to listen very carefully and mark this date in your calendar right now. Next week, October 9th at 7 p.m. Brisbane time, we're doing a free live webinar at the Unemployable headquarters here on the Gold Coast. It's called Ask Us Anything, where we're taking all your property development questions and we're going to be answering them live that night. If you're interested, click in the episode description down below or go to www.unemployableproperty.com.au/Ask Us Anything. We will be going live on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. And for anyone that is there that night live on the webinar, we're going to be doing a draw for 2 tickets to our upcoming Unemployable boat cruise on November 29th, where you're going to be hanging out with our consultants and all of our Unemployable coaching clients. There will be over 100 people on this boat. It's going to be a great afternoon, but you have to be there live on the webinar that night. We hope to see you that night, and hopefully we'll see you on the boat as well.
I was just going to add, and that this is for those sitting at home, not sure if they want to do their current job, if they want to invest, if they want to start a business. This is probably the biggest opportunity that I see in the next 3 to 4 years, and it's the information arbitrage. So you think about like JP Morgan or Charles Schwab or CBA, Combank or whatever, or Westpac, they issue a report, right? Like a quarterly report. These are the stocks or these are the companies that you should watch. And then you don't hear from them for another quarter, another 6 months. 3 months in today's day and age is a lifetime, right? It's an absolute lifetime. Today, we can literally get updates on that company, the bottlenecks behind the company, the pros, the cons, the opportunities for whatever it is that we're looking at instantly through various different LLMs and data sources. So I think what you're saying, you did it to debunk something, but you can also do it to gather information that other people may have missed, especially these big investment houses that are supposed to be the masters of the universe. But right now, because they're so slow to adopt this new method of research and intelligence, I think there's an arbitrage until they catch up where we can have the information before they do and before they can give it to their clients, and we can make money on that. And so I think it's such an important skill in either direction to kind of learn how to do that step by step, each piece, and go second and third order effects of what people are saying.
The key there also is you can actually do it at warp speed too. Like I think we mentioned it before, not as a major hack, but you don't have to sit there and watch an hour and a half video to work it out. I mean, Mark, you do it all the time. Just grab the transcript, dump it in, and ask it some questions that you're keen to find out, especially when it comes to data-driven stuff. Perplexity is a good one, Mark. You use that as well if you want to scrape the internet for every single article on something in a nanosecond and then distill it. Perplexity is free. There's a paid model there as well. But I mean, you can certainly get through a chewy topic in 10 minutes, 15 minutes to get enough to then warrant which angle you want to take with it.
Perplexity is good, James. Like you said, Perplexity is good because they have more lax rules in terms of like what they can go in and scrape versus like ChatGPT and stuff. Like Perplexity will pretty much go anywhere on the internet. So yeah, there's different models for different themes and things, and it's phenomenal. It's phenomenal. You have to be spending time on this, in my opinion.
Money is going to be made in learning to learn. You've got to learn again, you know, and I really think this is a skill for adults listening to this. I'm 51 years old and I'm still learning to learn. Eric?
I think one of the things is there's so much distraction, right, in the world right now with social media, and like we're literally just swiping. You know, you got 2 seconds. No, that one up. And it'd be a good challenge for people to go, let's take one topic, right, for the month and dive deep into it and try it, right? Rather than trying to learn about property and Bitcoin and politics and different types of wealth creation and trading and all these things. Just go, okay, let's, you know, my advice would be going, if you want to learn about Bitcoin, right, like Adam said, read the Bitcoin Standard, but also just take a month, right, like what James and Mark are explaining, and dive deep, use ChatGPT, and just become an expert for that month and learning about that one topic. You're not going to be an expert overnight, but let me tell you, if you allocate a certain amount of time every day or every week and make it a non-negotiable, you're going to be learning a lot more. Like look with Adam. So Adam, right, is the most well-researched Bitcoin guy that I know personally, right? And here's some random dude in a gold mask that's talking rubbish. And he even said just then that he learned so much just from some random dude talking rubbish. So imagine what you can actually learn when you're actually allocating that time, and then go the following month, let me learn about trading. And then that following month, let me learn about property development. Following month, learn about something different, you know, starting an e-com business or whatever it would be to help you get to where you want to be, depending on what situation you're in. I think that would be a good challenge for people.
Eric,
This is what it looks like, guys. Like this is on I have a Remarkable, but this is just one page, and I could scroll that up, right? There's all this notes, and there's like 3 pages of this where I stopped the video, got a claim. What questions do I need to verify about the claim? Played the video again. It took me 2 hours to watch a 1-hour video, and then I spent another 2 hours online with ChatGPT, cross-referencing where my knowledge gaps were, using AI to help me fill those knowledge gaps. And it was so helpful. I had a guy this morning who's in our trading group say, we use 10x leverage to perp trade with you guys. And he goes, what interest rate do we pay on the 10x leverage? I said, go to ChatGPT and ask the question, do we borrow money when we do perpetual trades on Bybit? Of course we don't, right? That doesn't work by using borrowed funds. And so it's just learning to understand these things and learning not to be useless and just immediately, like if you see a DM or you see an Instagram reel, don't flick it to someone and go, what do you think of this? What do you think of this? Use your fucking head. Do some research. No.
Yeah, I think you, Mark.
I was just going to say that's the issue, Adam. Like it's like these days people think. Well, I don't want to speak generally, but like a lot of the time I bump into people who are using ChatGPT, and like James, you said it before. I don't think you meant it to that extent, but instead of watching the video, they just get a 5-minute transcript and then they think they've learnt everything. Whereas I'm doing the opposite. I'm doing what Adam's doing. I'm taking 3 hours to watch a 45-minute video because I'm stopping the video and then going into detail on certain parts, right? People are looking for the shortcut rather than trying to find the arbitrage or the opportunity. Eric, you said it before, people are distracted. You only have to look at the announcement that Trump made with RFK on Tylenol, right? Instead of like listening to the announcement and saying, okay, well, let's find out where the truth and where the falsehoods might be in this. Let's go and look up how ibuprofen and paracetamol work against the body. And 2-minute search, you'd find all the things that could possibly mean that it leads to autism. Not definitive, possibly. And yet people are rather like have a go at the person that delivered the message or just say that's bullshit, it's got to be bullshit. It's like rather than, okay, well, if you don't have a kid or you never plan to have a kid, fine, whatever, it doesn't matter. But if you are planning to have a kid, you'd take 5 minutes, take an hour and look into it.
The point is you can't run your life off Instagram reels. And I realized that my laziness, I had even started to watch this reel. I didn't even bother to watch the full podcast that the reel came from, right? And then I went straight to somebody who I trusted and said, what do you think? And I thought, Adam, you're better than that. Learn to learn again. James, you were going to say something there?
It's never been easier or faster, depending on how deep you want to go with it. And again, Mark, I use it to either work out whether I should go down the rabbit hole or not. So you're right. But I remember back in the days when you were with Amazon days, the number one thing was that used to preach, and this was when research was a hell of a lot harder, was don't outsource your fucking brain. It's Google or YouTube. But now we've actually got how many different large language models? I mean, it's never been easier to learn. Is my point.
Yeah. And what you pick up if you do it yourself was like, I started to ask questions. It was coming to my head with this guy in the gold mask. I'm like, why is he doing this? What is the incentive? And it was so blaringly obvious once I watched the whole thing that at the end he was shilling the coin saying the real Bitcoin is on this token. And right now it's trading at $30. And I'm like, oh my God. Like if I'd had that context in the reel, it would have changed the entire color of it. And interestingly, without me knowing I was doing this deep dive, the guy in the gold mask who's gone super viral reached out to me on Instagram. He's just spamming the shit out of me in my DMs, giving me all these crazy conspiracy theories. Like he actually believes that COVID was brought on by the central banks to disrupt the adoption of Bitcoin. I'm like, wow. Right. So it's a wild conspiracy. But anyway.
If one last point, Adam, if we were back in like 1900 or whenever it is that the motor car was invented or the Industrial Revolution, and we said moving forward, the only jobs that are going to be available are going to be manufacturing jobs, right? Well, what did everyone do? Everyone went out and got an apprenticeship or whatever, or learned how to work those manufacturing jobs. It's not just about learning. The AI, the infrastructure that is involved in AI is the new industrial revolution. by learning to use AI, you're going to be equipped for the new workforce. It's not just, hey, use it so you can be better than the next person. It's like everybody is going to need to learn how to retrain themselves because everything's going to run on AI. Everything.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So just to close off the Bitcoin stuff of the week, there was a big story that sort of broke that the guy in the world with the highest IQ tested came out and announced that he has converted all of his assets to Bitcoin, 100% Bitcoin.
Can I share screen?
Which is very interesting. Yeah, you can share screen, Mark. Can you bring it in? Just put it onto the stage. It should add as, I don't know whether we can put a fifth one on. Let's see whether we're capped at 4. Anyway, he came out. I guess the argument could be made, well, there it is. If he fucks it up, he's probably smart enough to get it back.
Yeah, as the world's highest IQ record holder and grandmaster of memory, I believe that Bitcoin is the only hope for the future economy. Therefore, I've converted all my assets into Bitcoin. But everything I possess belongs only to the Lord Jesus and will be used in His glory for His glory. So there you go.
Immediately, he slipped a few points in my book, but anyway.
So all these conservatives that are pro Bitcoin and pro God, they are actually pretty smart then.
I want to raise 2 things here, which is like jokes aside. Number one, what I found funny about this is when your mate Daryl from Wagga, who's about as dumb as a box of hammers, tells you, nah, mate, don't do Bitcoin. And on the other side, you got the smartest guy in the world putting all his assets in Bitcoin. Maybe it'd be time to test your assumptions and just go, maybe I should apply myself a little bit if there's some pretty smart dudes. But on the flip side, this is probably for a different pod. But maybe, this might be a hard fork right here in the conversation. But lately, I have personally been starting to think more, as I think since the Charlie Kirk thing, I'm revisiting my faith, in my mind. And I'm seeing smart people who I respect, more and more of them, going back to, I don't know whether it's values or Christian values, but I don't know if it triggered any feelings of spiritual awakening in any of you guys, or is that just me?
No, 100%.
I was born and raised Catholic,
Mm-hmm.
and I still to this day pray every night.
Yeah.
I don't go to church. I don't, but I pray. And so like there's certain values I've grown up with, right, and I stick to. But I'm with you on that, Adam, is that there's definitely a lot more people looking into their faith and values, whatever that means to you individually. But I think that you need to think of some type of, in my opinion, higher being or belief, because at the end of the day, I believe that there is a higher being, whatever that means, that there is a God. I know I don't want to go down that whole road, but I actually rarely forget to pray. And if I don't, I actually can't get to sleep. It's just something that it just gets out of my head. And, I bring blessings onto, my family, my friends, myself, health, wealth, and, being grateful and these types of things, So yeah, it's just something. When I grew up, my mom, before she put my sister and I to bed, would pray in Portuguese to us. And we have a Portuguese prayer. I don't say that one anymore. I just say a different one. But yeah, it's just kind of, that's the way I've been raised. And, but I wasn't raised in a family where you're going to church and you're preaching and you're doing all that type of thing. But I think there is definitely a pendulum swing in regards to people looking.
I wonder if churches like Christian churches are getting busier. I had sort of an organic moment. I can't remember where I was. Honestly, I'm waking up at the moment. I'm not really sure where I am, but I was about to eat and I realized where I was. And for some reason, I had this compulsion just to say grace. And I haven't said grace for a long time. And it was actually a ritual that I want to try and continue to, just, even if that's the depth of my spirituality for now, but just to pause and be grateful that I'm about to eat this incredible food that I'm blessed to just have served to me and given to me with these little fun coupons that I seem to have around. Mark, you were going to say something?
Yeah, it's amazing because I grew up Roman Catholic, was baptized, confirmation, communion, all of that. And, I went to church and Sunday school and all of it, and then kind of went really far away from it. And I remember the one time in my life I would say like I was at rock bottom. Like I threw my sister and my mum out of my house. I just said like, get the fuck out of my house. And I'm just sitting there on the floor, like crying afterwards, thinking like, what has happened to me? Who have I become? Like, how can I do something like that? And I actually read a book, and it's one of the best books I've ever read. It's called Fearless, the Adam Brown story. He became a Navy SEAL, but he was drug addicted before that, and then he was given a chance, turned to Christian church, all that, and became a famous Navy SEAL that was on SEAL Team 6, the team that eventually went on to capture Osama bin Laden, right? And that book kind of changed it, and it made me realize that I need to kind of go back to my faith. I need to understand that there is something bigger than myself, right? Because I think one of the things that you find if you look at a lot of people that are depressed or anxious is that they're a lot of the time very, very self-absorbed, sometimes for good reason. Bad shit's happened in their past, etc. But you find that they don't often think of others, you know, and give gratitude and give blessings and all that, right? Anyway, so, and then I feel like I've kind of gone away from it a little bit again. But then recently, like I hear stories like Eric's, and I hear stories like something that Charlie did for Erica every Saturday, write her a letter and things like that. And I think people now have the courage and the courage to kind of share these rituals and stories, whereas previously they just kept in quiet. And that's starting to inspire me, and I'm sure inspiring other people to adopt those practices, whether they want to go to church or not. These are just fundamental good human values and practices, right? And I think you know, part of the reason the world has been in such a mess is because we've moved so far away from that over the last, you know, 10 to 15 years. And you know, I think moving back to it is healing, and it doesn't have to be church or God or religion, but it's just that spiritual practice of being a human.
What was the guy's name? What was the name again? James, we'll jump right to you. Adam.
It's called Fearless, the Adam Brown story.
Brown.
Like it's like one of the best books I've ever read.
James.
Yeah, I'll just add just more padding to what Mark's saying there, not necessarily from a Christian or a religious point of view, but just general spirituality in general. But with the Christian values, I mean, do unto others, be a good human, like just the general good stuff. I mean, that's not that hard. And you know, some, especially I shouldn't say all of Australia, but where I grew up, religion wasn't certainly, it wasn't at the forefront, that's for sure. I didn't go to religious schools or anything like that, but certainly, it's not that difficult to read between the lines and just do good things. And if you're being a fuckwit, you're being a fuckwit, you know, and the difference between right and wrong and the ability to know better.
James's one commandment: don't be a fuckwit. End of Bible.
Pretty simple. It's pretty simple. And say please and thank you. You know.
Treat others. I just want to. We'll move on from it, guys. I think it's an interesting one. And I just wanted to raise it just out of interest for something different this week, because it's, you know, what I think we're seeing in the world at the moment is we're seeing this sort of division of ideologies, and you know, and a shout out also to my Muslim friends, because I have one of my first Muslim friends that I really got to know in the UK years ago. I asked him, his name was Ifti, I said, dude, what's with the praying 5 times a day, right? Because I knew nothing about it. And he said, well, Adam, in the simplest terms, it makes us stop 5 times a day and remember that there is a God above us and that we are not the be all and end all. And I was like, I can get on board with that idea. That's a good idea. Because as you said, Mark, when you think you're the center of the world, no good shit comes from that, generally speaking, right? Even though you are kind of the center of your world, like you created it all, but still, I think having that awareness. And I just want to say, for me personally, because I know there are people listening to this that are feeling lost, and I came up with a super strict Christian upbringing that really fucked up my childhood, and so I've got a lot of issues around it. But I will say that I did feel good just stopping and saying grace, and that it felt good just to be grateful. So anyway, if you're going down those lines, we're not here to preach anything, because I'm not part of a church or anything else, but I do think, you know, in this time, I think it's good for all of us to try and connect back to values at the very least.
Great. Whatever works, man, whatever works.
Yeah. Moving on, Eric, I wanted to talk about this week. You guys got in touch with a key person at Patrick Bet-David's organization in Florida. For those who don't know PBD, Patrick Bet-David, affectionately known as PBD, Patrick runs one of the biggest podcasts in the world. He's now got more eyeballs than most major news networks in America. His new facility that they just built for his podcast, I know a year ago they had 75 people just in the editing department. They just bought a massive facility that's actually on a private airport. They've built their own basketball stadium, all sorts of shit from a podcast. It's crazy. And we managed to hire the guy that runs basically all of his media. So, Eric, do you want to tell us, how did we connect with him and what did you learn from that connection? Mark, just so you know, there's at the bottom of the camera, there's like a strip of paper or top of a laptop or something. Eric, give us the context. What did you do? What did you do and what did you learn?
Yeah, so obviously we're always trying to up the game, right? The little 1%, and we're in a group chat and Adam sends stuff and we send back, and it's just always intriguing to see what different people are doing. And the reason why we have a 4-panel pod is because the PBD podcast. So really, we've been following them for a little while now and seeing what they're doing, and it's inspirational. And that's kind of, I'd love to be, the PBD podcast of Australia. That would be amazing. Unemployable. So obviously we're growing as a podcast, but you don't know what you don't know. And we got some amazing people that work with us. But there was something inside of me that was just like, you know what, let's reach out to someone who's doing this on a bigger scale. And through Minect, we connected with Rob. Now, Minect is an app that Patrick Bet-David and his organization created. And it stands for minute and it stands for connect. So that's where the Minect comes from. And what he was fed up was with having to, make these phone calls, with a solicitor. Next thing you know, you're getting a bill and, they're charging by the minute and these types of things. So he thought it would be a good idea to go, let's create a platform where we can bring experts from all over the world. They can charge by the minute for a phone call. They can charge by the minute for a video call. They can charge for a text message, any form, any method of communication. So I went on there, did a bit of research and found Rob, who's the executive producer of PBD Podcast and Value Team. Like, he's the guy, and he's the guy that reports to PBD himself. So he's the last set of eyes before anything goes live. So we sat down
involved
with him for
in all the strategy, right? All the strategy.
Involved in the strategy. He's ex-radio, and now he works full-time with PBD. And interesting enough, they've got 30 full-time staff in their podcast studio for marketing, content, strategy, socials, and the rest of it. We sat down with them for an hour, Perry and I, and it was the best hour, honestly, I think I've had in a long time, with someone talking about the podcast and strategy. And we just broke down what we're doing. He broke down exactly what they're doing. He broke down their exact business model, what they're doing, what they're not doing, what we should be doing. And we asked those questions, those pivotal questions where it's like the fork in the road, that one change, that one pivot can change everything, can change the trajectory. But what was great about it is we're doing a lot of good things already, right? That he was recommending, saying, you guys are already doing this, which is great. So it's just like, it's amazing how 2 years ago we knew nothing about a podcast. Here we are 2 years later, and here we are talking with the executive producer, which in my opinion at the moment is probably the largest growing podcast in the world. Their BHAG this year, which is BHAG stands for Big Hairy Audacious Goal, is 6 billion views, 6 with a B. And not only did we just talk about the actual production in the back end of the podcast, but we talked about business structure and the structure of how the merch business is structured differently than the podcast, which is structured differently than the consulting business, because it's one big funnel, really. And so informative. And it's amazing that you can connect with anybody. Like, you could connect with Patrick Bet-David if you want. You can, depending on what cost you want to spend. I don't Adam's got a Minect account. I just set up MNX account that I'm going to start advertising as well, because I'm getting a lot of DMs now. And so you guys, James and Mark, I think you guys should create one as well, because it's all good sitting there and answering DMs and emails and everything. But at the end of the day, our time is valuable. And I think anyone that is an expert or is quite informative about one specific topic, right, should be paid for their time. And that's what we did with Rob. Yeah, there you go, right? You want to talk to Vince, you want to talk to any of them, they're there. Rob cost us, from memory, about $1,200 or $1,300 for the hour. Some people go, oh my God, that's the best value. And now, yeah, that's him.
So now, for those listening on Spotify, I'm holding up the app here, and you can see the guy. And basically, it's like the Uber for advice. You put your credit card in, and then there's a per minute rate. And then it says here that Rob, for a video call, is $255 US for 15 minutes. So that'd be about $1,000 US an hour. And that's what you did.
Eric, you guys have got a channel. There's probably other people out there that are thinking about starting a channel, or maybe not even starting a channel, just, teaching or making a service out of the thing that they're an expert in or want to be an expert in. I've got a channel. It's now got, small amount of subscribers, 1,400. Like what are the one or two or three takeaways that you could share with us from that call?
One of the big things, obviously, which is the most common, is consistency. So making sure if you're going out on a Tuesday, you're going out on a Tuesday every Tuesday, or if you're going out on a Friday at 3, every Friday at 3, because people, we are creatures of habit, right? And it's just like watching a television show. Like when you're hooked on a show, like The White Lotus as an example, that's a very, very famous show. And when that new release comes out every Wednesday at 6 p.m. or whatever it is, like you are there with your popcorn, showered up with your PJs, ready to rock to watch this thing. You know what I mean? Like, and if it's not, you're pissed. And that was one of the main things. Another thing is taking your time, right? Like one thing he said was when they first started, and it was so funny because after I was talking to him, then this reel came up of PBD, which I sent to Adam when he was talking about when I first started, the first 7 months, we had 1,000 subscribers and no one knew who I was. And it was just my friends and my family. And like, I was just like, wow, I was humbled to hear that, because that's like where we were at, we're at, I think, cracking on to 35,000. So it's just making sure that you, I was
just going to say, Eric, and then in the rest of that reel, he went on to say that just in one video that Vinny put up in the last month, they got 270,000 new subs off one video.
Wow.
Yeah.
Off one video.
And the other thing is having a strategy, right? Why do you have the channel to start with? Right? Like, why do you have the channel? What's the monetization side of the channel? What's the value that you want to bring to somebody? Because they have like a proper funnel, like their consulting business. Like, give you an idea. He was talking about, he goes, we haven't been doing a lot of business podcasts, right? And that's where they started. But he's like, the backbone of the business is the coaching, right? The Patrick Bet-David consulting and the events. He goes, our BHAG for the event was 12,000. We only got 8,000. So what has that taught us? We need to talk more business podcasts and more business oriented. So that way we can start adding more value in business, so we can actually create bigger events. So it's really, and another thing is he talked about their demographic and the percentages, right? Not the numbers, but the demographic and percentages are bang on with ours. Right? Yeah. Who's listening, the male versus female ratio, and the age group is exactly the same. And what they realize is they want to start attracting more from 24 to 35-year-old males. They're not getting that audience, and they want that audience. He's like, they're listening to guys like, Logan Paul and Andrew Tate, and like they're like, we're missing that demographic. So one thing he mentioned is really looking at your analytics. And another big thing he said is what they look at for topics is they research ChatGPT, and big thing they use is Google Trends. What is trending, right? To then talk about those trends, to then get reels based on those trends that are already trending, gaining more momentum, and shorts. So what we're not doing good enough is, and we've been talking about this, Adam, for quite some time, is we're really good on long form, right? But YouTube shorts. So, right, 30, 60, 90-second shorts on YouTube. Drives, they're not money making, he says, but they drive subscribers.
Isn't it amazing right now in this day and age? You can literally get, well, let's call him in the top 5 podcast producers on the planet for 12 or 1300 Aussie dollars for an hour and drop that bomb. We could have been on this podcast for the next 12, 18 months in the wrong direction with probably the wrong, maybe potentially the wrong strategy. And you can get that pivot, as you said, the fork in the road, and knowledge for $1,300.
And we're meeting with a monthly. Yeah. So I told Perry monthly. Yeah, so, monthly. And then what happens now is I got Perry thinking. So what does Perry send me? He goes, hey, guess who I just found? Their main social media person for PBD. They're $250 USD an hour. So he's booking her in. So we could sit down and go, hey, what are you doing? What do we need to do? And then let our social media person know. But another thing is all their entities are structured separately. So their merch is separate. So they would probably have someone like what we've been talking about, someone that's incentivized to run the merch. Then they have the consulting, someone separate that's incentivized on the consulting, the PBD podcast, Valuetainment, Her Take, all these different, the usual, I think it's called the usual suspects they have. And they have another one as well, because now they're getting into crime and comedy and these types of things, because it's all eyeballs.
Maybe they just...
You think about it, 15 grand a year, if you shut up once a month, have the best in the world, and it's bespoke education too. It's not a static course. It's been sitting there for 12 months or 18 months. That's old and stale and potentially out of currency. You're getting the real time on your business. I mean, it's peanuts.
And we've created a relationship with him, because I think he sees a lot of synergies on what we're doing and what he's doing. And I said, listen, we've been following you guys for a long time, and we're really mirroring what you guys are doing, but in Australia. And he gave us his personal email address now, not his personal mobile or anything yet, but eventually, who knows, when we go to the US, we go for a trip. Well, guess what? Hey, Rob, we're coming down. Let's catch up for lunch. Let me take you out for dinner. Next thing you know, hey, actually, I'll bring Vince along. Next thing you know, like, you just don't know what can happen.
Eventually he'll appear on the pod, or you'll appear on their pod, like depending on when the follower accounts align, and that's just what will happen. This is one thing that took me a long time to realize, that these relationships and these networks, they don't come free. Like, you have to kind of pay to play in one way or another. You have to pay to play, whether you're buying a course or buying time or buying a ticket to an event. You just don't get access to the room unless you pay to play.
I'm going to give you a perfect example of that, Mark. So a friend of mine, I'm not going to mention names, very, very successful guy here in Australia in kind of the coaching space, messages me on Sunday, hey, do you fancy Vault Conference 2026 in Vegas next year? They're doing 5-time CEO top tier tickets for $67,000 US. I've got 3 people, thought of you. Anyways, I can't make it at that time because I'm going to be overseas. But I said, thanks for thinking me. Who's all going? Then he says, morning, mate. This person's going. That person's going. Plus myself. And he's like, I haven't been to one before, but building that relationship with PBD and his team. So this shows good intent in hoping to have him still for our November event in 2026, because he wants to get him here. Right. Again, you've got to pay to play. Right. And this guy's doing big events. So what is he going to do? Let me commit. Let me actually pay. Let me go there. Let me shake his hand. Let me get the attention. Let me add value and say, hey, by the way, I'd love to get you, how much do you cost? And then create that relationship.
Yeah, but the value you get out of having that headliner there is, how many X is it when you get someone like PBD to headline your audience?
Yeah. So the moral of the story, guys, is it's there for the taking. You could go on Connect right now, and there is people from all over the world, famous people, successful people that you can connect with I can guarantee you any topic that you're stuck on right now in your business, there is someone that has the scars. There's someone that has bled, right, for the last 10 years doing it, that knows more than you. And for 1 hour of their time can solve a lot of your problems if you take the action.
We've reached out to all kinds of people using that. It's like a curated group of superstars. We reached out to Candace Owens recently. I've reached out to Jake Paul, about 6 months ago on there. Like it's an incredible resource that can open doors. I mean, it's really powerful. So if you're sitting out there, and I've done 69 consultations. I just looked it up on Connect, and I charge stupid money, and I still get booked. I've done 69 of them, and I charge $2,000 an hour. So it's not cheap, but
and a big thing, guys, here is it's very easy not to talk about this. It's very easy to keep those cards close to our chest at Unemployable, and it's our little secret that nobody knows about, only a select few. But we're telling you what we're doing in real time. We're not hiding it, right? We're in the trenches just like anyone else, building our business of Unemployable podcast, and we're telling you the plays that we're making. Like not.
You know why we do that, Eric? And you know why Pat is so open about it? Because you still got to do the work. And most people are not going to do the work.
We just said this on the podcast earlier. So we had that Jack Henderson on the podcast earlier, right? He's famous on Instagram right now. You guys will all be, if you guys don't know him and you research him, he'll be chasing you down for the rest of your life. Yeah. He's running that many ads. But he said the same thing, right? He was talking about his whole business model on where he's going in the property management space. He goes, I'm talking about this right now. I probably shouldn't be, but I don't care, because you know what? You got to still do the work, and majority of people won't do it. So I'm going to say it anyways.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and that's it. You pay to play, you lean in, and that's how these things, get done. And guys, all of this is again to say, keep putting the content out there. Mark, you've been publishing a lot lately, and I've been pushing you along, seeing that you're doing it. Not pushing, but just watching you and encouraging you, because this is how you. Well, first of all, that's what you do for mates who are having a go. You encourage them. But I can tell you, looking back, like I think about all the rooms I've been in and just got out of one, as you know, with Kuala Lumpur, and I managed to be sitting in a private, because I was a speaker, in my contract, I had to do 3 VIP meetups where they had their, 25,000 per head US ticket holders to sit at the front of the room, got special catering, but I had to go on those things. And I think back, how did I end up here? Like I'm sitting in this little room called the tea room, and they had like waiters serving us tea and custom cocktails and different things. And I've got the Minister of Finance in the UK government sitting on one side, and I've got Andrew Henderson, who owns Nomad Capitalist, on the other. And then I've got some of their high net, like super high net worth people from all over the world there. And all of it comes back to creating content. And one person watches it who, like the people like that I get reached out to sometimes, I'm like, how the hell did I end up here? And so, anyway, so I'm talking to the guy from the UK, and just keep publishing and keep investing and keep trying to do better. And it just takes time, it just takes time paying attention to the details. Like we're just split testing thumbnails this week, based on what we learned. And like I've had this month, I've had 15 million views on my Instagram, organic, not $1 of paid traffic. And we did one split test of a thumbnail just to give you a concept of how valuable small 1% changes are that you pick up from people who are smart. One of the guys I interviewed said, try switching the thumbnail out that you've got with this thumbnail that I made for you. And it was a 2% difference. And I ran that across my channel. That would have resulted in 300,000 more views of my content with a 2% difference on the thumbnail. 300,000, that's half the population of the Gold Coast for 1 month. It's 3.5 million over the course of a year. So it just shows you there's being in the game.
Adam, and just to explain, just to give people some context and explain the power of the views and what it means. You got, if I'm right in the screenshot you sent, you got something like 22,000 new followers in the last 30 days, which brought Correct. You to 90,000. So before that, you were like 70, whatever it was, 70 something. Yeah. And like, that's an incredible percentage increase in 30 days. Incredible. Right. And that's, do you know how that came about though, Mark? If you track that back, we're going on to Connect, finding Tommy Robinson, who'd been on Pat's show. Right. Bang.
Right. I found Tommy and I said he had a per minute rate. And I said, I'll pay you that per minute rate for an hour to have you on our pod. And then we had him on the pod, and then he gives me his phone number because we hit it off so well. And then he says, here's a media pass to UK. And then I got front row with Perry and whatever. He gave us 3 of them, however many we wanted. And we ended up front and center with 1 million plus people trying to get where we were standing because of the podcast, because of the podcast. And so when I was there in that media pen, I met these other incredibly high level influencers. And like people say whatever they want about Tommy, but when you get close to Tommy Robinson, you're talking another level of security people. Like you got Elon Musk dialing in to have a chat with a guy. And I mean, literally Elon Musk coming in live to talk to a man that was on our pod that was standing not 5 meters from me on that day. So there's me, there's a few security, Tommy and Elon. Like if that's not like the power of content, and you're sitting there going, you just got to start, mate. Like I'm just sitting there going, how the hell did I even get here? But it's Minect, boom, boom, boom.
You've just set me a challenge that for the month of October, I'm going to schedule my first Minect call. I don't know who I'm going to schedule with. I don't know how much I'm going to spend for the hour, but I'm going to schedule my first call and I'd like to extend that challenge to everyone who's watching this podcast. It doesn't matter whether you work a job, business, what it is, but go and make 1 Minect call and see what kind of doors that can open up, and then report back to us. Hit us up on Instagram or put it in the comments. But I think that's an incredible challenge, and I appreciate you guys sharing that.
You know what's crazy though is when you think of it, Adam, like us, Unemployable, Adam specifically, is one person away from being introduced to Elon Musk if he pushed enough. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
right thing.
If you had the right thing, right? Hey, Tommy, I've got this amazing thing. Please, can you just connect or just send it like that? That is the most powerful man in the world. One of the most powerful men in the world, the most intelligent man in the world, in my opinion. We'll love it in the comments. But yeah. It's pretty crazy.
That's what it is about relationship. Like when I was there, I'm looking in my phone, and I mean, I look down at my phone and I go, "Holy shit!" Like I can't show the numbers, but just to show you, like going back and forward, like this is going back and forward with me and Tommy personally with voice notes, and you just go, it's there once you know, and once you show value and you like he loved our pod. He loved being there, and it was mind blowing when we were there. Me and Perry were on the streets and people came up to us because they saw the Unemployable hat and said, "Oh, I saw your pod with Tommy." You're like, oh my God, like this world that we live in is wild. So it's just leaning into it and showing up and keep going. A couple of other things, moving on from that. We're almost finished. Jesus, nearly the hour. How long have we been recording? Getting close. I think we started a little bit late. Yeah. Okay. So let's cover off on a couple of last things. I might throw actually to you, Eric, because this is pretty stunning. The numbers that came out this week that you saw, which was the Australian retirement revised numbers. Like how much more an Australian needs to retire now than I think it was 5 years ago. What's the number?
Yeah. So this is an estimate, right? So they did a survey for people aged 18 and over, and they asked what they're planning for retirement and where they're falling short. In the estimate household income they believe they'll need in retirement. So participants aged 25 to 34 now expect to need 59% more, $106,000 than they did just 2 years ago. This is yearly income. So in 2023, the average retirement income for Australians under 45 was 89,000. In 2024, it's 97,000. But what they're saying is already retired couples are spending just 55,000 annually, highlighting the growing gap between expectations and reality. And that's the big thing, right? Is the expectations and reality piece on what, and that's in today's numbers. Like what are things going to cost?
Just to clarify, so some 25 to 35 or something, you're saying they need 106,000. That's adjusted for the 40-year retirement piece.
Well, I don't know if it's adjusted for that. It's what they're thinking So I think it's in today's dollars, because in 40 years you're gonna need a lot more than just that small increase. But it just says in just 2 years since our first How Australia Retires report, we've seen a sharp rise in retirement income expectations among young Australians. It's clear that needs and aspirations for retirement are evolving, and they're evolving very, very fast. And then they got the charts and bits and pieces. But what was also interesting was, we think this is a bit of a sleeper issue. Mr. Shrimsky said, so this is the guy that was interviewing, noting that 1 in 3 millennials and 1 in 4 baby boomers and Gen Zs anticipate retiring with actual mortgage debt.
Wow. I guess that's for a bunch of reasons, right? Because I saw a story this week saying that in Australia, was it a story or was it a post that somebody put out? I think it was a reel, actually, and somebody went to ChatGPT and said, what will Australia be like? What will be the worst parts of being in Australia in 10 or 20 years? And ChatGPT listed them all. And one thing that ChatGPT said that they think is definitely coming is 45-year mortgages in Australia. So it's going to take you like 3 times as long to save up the deposit, because this 5% thing won't be forever.
Well, what they're saying,
way longer, and then you're going to have a much bigger mortgage for much longer.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly what they're saying in the second part of the article, right? It says KPMG on Wednesday revealed that rising house prices could force the nation's youngest to work well past the age of 65.
Wow.
We see in the data a lot of people had almost paid off their mortgage in their 50s, but now this has pushed out to their 60s. So these bigger loans are part of the reason people in the future might have to work longer, which is pretty shit when you think of it, like.
Yeah.
I remember growing up and watching the commercials when I was 10, 12, 13, 14 years old. And it was literally a thing called Freedom 55. Like, and people retiring at 55, and there was this package they put you on, and like not many people retiring at 55.
That's crazy.
When you know how much you actually need to live, unless you want to
great if you're a bank.
Well, yeah, great if you're a bank.
Everyone's enslaved for another 15 years.
Yeah, but this is why you got to go hard,
Totally.
I'm 42, right? And I'm doing okay, but let me tell you, my 40s to 50s, like these are my, I'm looking at these as my golden years, and I don't know if I'll ever retire, as in like not do anything. My mind just doesn't work that way. But for a lot of people, it's where those people that they're talking about are most people that have jobs. They have their jobs. They've been working for 40 years. They're putting away in their superannuation. They're paying their taxes. They're paying their mortgage every month, and thinking that shit, now I got to be pushed into my 60s and late 60s and still have a debt on your mortgage. Yeah, it's pretty uncomfortable to think about for a lot of people.
So I mentioned this in the post. It's kind of a side topic. I mentioned it in the chat, but during mid-March 2020 to March 2022, so 2-year period, the Federal Reserve in America purchased approximately $2.9 trillion in agency mortgage-backed securities. The increase in mortgages in America in that same 2-year period was 1.47 trillion. So they effectively purchased 200% of the new mortgage rate in the US. So the Federal Reserve doubled the amount of new mortgages, and so this issue is it's purely a government and a credit and a debt issue that our governments cannot afford to let the prices of properties come down. And so it's all baked in the cake that the house prices are going to get more expensive, and they're going to continue to encourage citizens to take on more debt, because that's what they're doing. And they will backstop the debt one way or another as well. And it's like, what would you guys say? Because it's like, I don't want to get on and we just complain about a topic. What do you guys think that the issue or the solution for those people listening at home that might fall into the categories where they're going to have a 45-year mortgage and they're going to need to retire less? What's the solution?
Well, I'll tell you what Jack Henderson's solution is. His solution is don't buy your owner-occupied place of residence, rent, and invest what you have left over. That's his take on it. And then you're in tax deductible debt. A lot of people want their owner-occupied house because of the capital gains exemption. But what a lot of people forget is you're paying all that money with after-tax income that is not deductible. So when you start actually working out numbers and you put all that on a spreadsheet and you start working out the savings and the tax that you're going to pay because of your capital gains exemption versus you paying after-tax dollars and not being able to deduct it, it's probably not as attractive as what everybody thinks. But everybody wants their white picket fence and paint the walls blue and, security and the rest of it. And that's the story that we've been told since we're kids. We've been watching it in the movies. It's ingrained in Disney. It's go to school, get a degree, get married, buy a house, have kids, pay your mortgage, and just live. And it's a mentality that people need to start thinking a little bit differently. In my
someone you know, Eric, Adam from yesteryear, Jace Whitten from Positive Real Estate came out doing a webinar exactly that. He's saying, why the headline was why owning your own home's percent you broke. It's just
I caught up with Jason in Kuala Lumpur.
Yeah, it's a good dude.
Yeah.
But
I don't know, man. Like I think we're in for some. I think it's probably a subject for another pod. But I see here in Bali, like where I am in this road here in Canggu, there's I'm in this huge house, but there's these new villas next to me, and I just see young families coming out, Australians. They're coming out like Mark, right? And they're coming out with their baby in the stroller, and they live here, right? And they're owning these things for $300,000 cash, and they're working online, and they're just probably structured so they're very, very tax effective. I think that's one route, is really be prepared to make substantial changes and move. But if you're going to stay in Australia, I wish I had an easy answer, Eric, because it's just, you're going to start a business, but after 50 years of living and 30 years of them in business, most people have no idea how hard they've got to work to be successful in business in Australia. It's really hard because it's a small market. It's really heavily taxed. You've got to think internationally, and a lot of the time you do. There's not a lot of businesses like MX Store that get up like that one did. I think you've just got to either be prepared to downsize or significantly upshift what it takes to be downsize and think differently about the way you want to spend the next 20 years of your life, or be prepared to work unbelievably hard in a high-risk environment in Australia to get ahead. There's no other way.
I listened to a podcast with Ray Dalio and Stephen Bartlett, Diary CEO, and I did my latest episode just kind of breaking down what I thought the most important parts were, and it kind of gives an A to Z playbook of how to deal with it. And he even talks about the emotional, religious, and spiritual side, which is incredible. But the one thing that Ray said that really made it simple to understand is that the number one question that we need to be asking ourselves is, how do we earn, spend, and save? They're the, if you break it down, they're the three tangibles that you have an impact over: how you earn, spend, and save. And right now, with the world that we're going into, every Australian, every person who has the luxury and the time up their sleeve to be listening to a podcast needs to be spending time on those three variables, I think. How do they earn, spend, and save? Because small shifts in either of those three could make an exponential impact, right?
It's like business. It's revenue, expenses, capital. It's the same thing. You know what I mean? Those are the three levers that you can really, really play with, right? And it's the same thing in
I think people they're being forced to have to think about some difficult challenges or some hard questions, and really think about what kind of lives do they want to live. I've watched you doing it, Mark, moving state and resetting up your life in a new place. Other families are making big decisions on how they want the idea of owning your own family home. The number of times people book a call with me to say, look, I just want to get your opinion, not financial advice, but just have a look at what we're doing. And a number of people have got so much cash tied up in their PPR in Australia and not working for them in a time where I think AI, as we've said it many, many times, is going to change the world. I think there's an enormous opportunity there, like whether it's in Tesla or companies that are going to benefit from the AI revolution. How are you going to earn? What are you going to study? What are you going to pay attention to? How are you going to use your capital? And I think you've got to really get very real about the world we're living in. This week, I listened to a pod with Jeff Booth, and I've listened to Jeff so many times. Interestingly, Mark, you'll find this interesting. Jeff just left Canada because of the left-wing agenda that's the same as the UK and Australia. He left, and Jeff's like such a nice. He moved to Florida for now, but he said it's just a stepping stone. But he said the main reason I went was because the US Constitution still gives him hope that freedom of speech is a real possibility in the US. But he's moving. But anyway, I've heard Jeff talk so many times, and if you want to watch the podcast, it was Adam Stokes, who's an Australian, interviewed Jeff Booth. And the thing that Jeff said at the start of that pod, which I've heard him say a million times, but really, really hit me this time, was he said to Adam, I always start the conversation about Bitcoin by saying to people that you must understand that technology, we live in a deflationary environment. Everything should be getting cheaper, but everything's not. And the minute you realize that, the minute you realize how much money is being printed, how badly broken the financial system is, and he just sort of really highlighted it again and saying, well, until you really understand that, you don't really start looking for solutions outside of it. And so it's worth listening to. I won't go to it. I haven't got time for it now, but I just think people need to really start to get serious about making hard decisions, because it is running away from people so quickly with the cost of housing, the length of mortgages, the gap between disposable income, what they're getting, what they've got left over. The days where we built our wealth, they're gone.
It's a good point, Adam, and I run into this problem when I have conversations with people who have reached out to speak to me, where I say you've got to spend time understanding this, you've got to spend time learning this. They're like, I don't want to. I work long enough hours, this, that, and the other, and it's like you do it, and it's like I don't remember, but I've heard anecdotal stories that it was exactly the same when Henry Ford came out with the motor car. Who the hell is going to want this motor car? I've got a horse. I don't need a car. I've got a horse, right? And it's that mentality, I've got a horse, I don't need a car, that I'm seeing constantly over and over again. I don't need to learn AI. I don't need to learn how to save. I don't need to do these things because I've got the current thing. And it's those trapped in the dogma that will get left behind. And, that's probably the main reason that we do the pod and everyone else who does a pod like this does it, to try and kind of instill that message that, hey, it's all there if you were just willing to that mindset.
How much time are you spending watching reels versus deep diving and really learning something in the way that I showed you at the start of this pod, Eric?
Yeah. So I want to end it just with, it's a mindset shift. Like I want to know in the comments, how does it make you feel, right? That the people listening to this that have $1 million, $2 million, $3 million, whatever it is, right? If you're at that level of unencumbered asset that is sitting in equity in your own home because it's comfortable, because that's what you've been taught to do, right? And you're still working full time, to then sell that, take that $2 million, put it into an income producing asset, giving you 10%, that's 200 grand a year, and then go rent somewhere for $2 grand a week as an example, and you still have $100,000, right, before taxes left over for disposable income on top of you still working. Like the answers are there, but it's hard, right? Like even me, like in our primary place of residence, and then we're moving into this new one, and then like I'm looking forward to, like being there, but at the same time, I'm looking forward to selling it. But at the same time, my mind's like, yeah, but is that the right decision? Because, you spent all this time and effort, and it's a mindset shift, right? A lot of people, like you said, have dead equity sitting in their home that are just sitting there earning nothing. And that is the mindset shift. Like you did that, Adam. Like you, right? And this is the thing. It's not just about talking about it. You did it. And I talk about you without you even realizing around, with friends at a dinner and, hey, how's Adam doing? And what's he up to? And where's he going? And I'm like, and then they start asking questions. I'm like, mate, he sold everything. You don't understand. Like, this isn't just like a, one toe in the water, like furniture, house, cars, like he's got suitcases, mate. That's what it like that's the mindset shift that you need to take. And I'm not there yet. Like, I'm looking at that still, and it scares the fucking bejesus out of me.
Yeah, but you're kids.
We talk about we still talk about it on a weekly basis, these topics, right? Mm-hmm. But slowly, because my missus slowly is like, I don't care. I just want the freedom. Let's go. Like, she's packing her bags tomorrow.
When you make the shift, and for me, I've gotten liquid. I made hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars in the last few weeks from the investments that I've made because I liquefied my own house, which is just sitting there stagnant and costing me $100,000 a year at the moment. Like, my old house is probably going up over the long term at, I don't know, 6-7%. But now that I've spent so much time learning, I now know how to I can see opportunities pretty clearly now. I have a sense of where we are in certain cycles. And I'm doing it, like, my cost of living is super low. Like, in Bali, my tax impost is now super low, and I've got disposable income to invest. And like, my life, just before I did this podcast, I went to the gym. I went and had a beautiful bowl here, of a nutritious salad, and I came here on the scooter, and I'm happy as a pig in shit. And so, just really start having thought experiments, guys. But really, you might find, that there's solutions sitting there where you just step away from what you assume you are trapped in and just do some thought experiments with your partner. Have a chat about, what if we did this, and just start those discussions. And a year from now, you might go, holy shit, we're doing something exciting and better for us.
I'll spin it. I'll put another spin on it. I know, because you guys tell me, and I'm getting the messages every single day as well. There are people watching this show that are making the moves, that are packing up and leaving, that are starting the thing, that are investing in that thing. There are so many people that hit us up each and every day that are actually doing it. And so if you're sitting there going, oh, could I just fucking do it? Because like, if that doesn't give you FOMO, that like everyday people are just making those moves day in, day out.
Yeah. Sam Hope's moved, our young guy that we've been mentoring.
I had a good chat with him last week. He filled me in on what he's doing.
Yeah, he's over in the States. He's got a funded startup. We're meeting him in Dubai. There's a whole world happening out there, but you just got to get in there and have a crack. Fortune favors the bold. Guys, thank you so much for another great week. Thanks for listening. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. I just want to, just remind everybody, like, subscribe, and comment. We do read all the comments, even if we don't respond to many of them. We do read them, and we appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. Have a great week out there, and we'll see you next week. Bye for now.
Hey there. I hope you enjoyed that episode of Unemployable. If you'd like to watch another episode, just click there.